clubs, there were people waiting for us. They'd heard some of Rock and Roll, they'd heard some Sad Wings of Destiny. That's all we got really out there at the time. But there was immediately a connection for this style of music. And it was really interesting because we had some great people working for us, put us on as many tours as possible. But some of the actual events were kind of not odd, because that's not right. But Judas Priest opens up the 38 special. Yeah. Judas Priest opens up the Head East. Judas Priest opens up for Foghat. Judas Priest opens up for REO Speedwagon. So you can imagine, we come out and start playing Victim of Changes. This is like, what is this? All that starts happening. But even then, it connects. That's the wonderful thing about this music. If you're a metalhead, and everybody in this room is, it just takes over, doesn't it? It just gets into your being, and once a metalhead, always a metalhead. Mm-hmm.
Story about that. I think it was the first tour that they came out on Black Sabbath. He told me they put them with a funk band or something, and they were out playing, and there was some guy right in front. They were just singing, and this guy was mouthing something to him. He couldn't hear what he was saying. And after it finally drove him nuts, so he got to about after the fourth or fifth song, he just said, "What is it?" It was like, "Hey, Black Sabbath." He said, "Yeah, you guys ain't black." But you know, in America, I think that there definitely it crosses the boundaries. People like music of different styles, and it's okay to do so. I think in England as well, it was quite separated, wasn't it? You were into one thing, or
yeah. I think there's always a definition between all of the different styles of rock and roll, no matter what you want to call it. But just referencing back to the States, it was particularly exciting because it was already kind of established in the UK and in certain parts of Europe. We'd already done the groundwork, you know, getting in the van and sleeping in the van and loading up the gear and doing the show and taking the gear down and putting it back in the van and driving overnight, all that kind of stuff. So the message, the metal message, was spreading quite quickly through Europe, but it was still a very, very new experience in America. But the one overriding factor that America had then and still has now is rock and roll radio, which we didn't have in England. We had no radio stations. We had the BBC, and, you know, they wouldn't touch metal with a barge pole, as we say. But we've always had an incredible relationship with rock and roll radio throughout America, and as I mentioned, Joe Anthony and some other greats up in Cleveland, New York, Los Angeles, everywhere were in their own way spreading the music, and so it went at a fair speed in terms of the slow pace that happened in Europe. So, you know, you listen to metal while you're actually in the car driving. Like, you wouldn't be able to do that back in England. So again, radio was a crucial element to get the word out there and to break down the barriers and to open up opportunities for bands like Priest.
So when you did some of the early tours and you got that kind of reception in America, and then you went back to the West Midlands, I mean, what did that feel like? Did you feel like you were on a big
feeling? It's the weirdest feeling. I'm sure some of our friends here will say the same thing. When you've been out on these big world tours and you go back to your little bedsit, your little studio, and shut the door, and you sit down, you put the telly, and you go, I was in New York like 12 hours ago, I'm back here. You know, and it's very humbling. I tell you, it's a very humbling experience, and I think once the crazy train, as it's been called, leaves the station, a lot of things can happen to your head, you know. The great thing about metal is that there's this wonderful kind of grounding that we've all been able to maintain. You know, none of us put on our airs and grace, so the limo's not the right temperature. None of that happens.
Scott can do it.
None of that happens. Well, occasionally, it depends what diva day I'm having, doesn't it? Yeah. It's the wrong tea, you're fired. when you do go back home from those early tours, it's absolutely incredible. And what you suddenly start to think about I'm trying to get too philosophical on a humanitarian level, is that the world is a really small place, and there are metalheads all over the world. We've been blessed to go everywhere, you know. But that metal heart, that metal spirit is wherever you go, and that's just a great friendship, and we call it the metal community. We've got this incredible connection that we maintain, supporting each other, coming to the shows, buying each other's music, and you know, that incredible sense of belonging to one another is very special.
Yeah. That's really the essence of a cause, you know. And I noticed that, for example, when rap music started, nobody wanted to touch it either. None of the record labels wanted to sign it. And the reason it became successful is they said, well, fine, if we can't do this with the record labels, we'll go out and do it on our own. And then they got people to buy records. They weren't buying the records because they liked the records as much as they were buying records because it was a cause, and they were supporting a cause. And I think that the same can be said about metal music as well. It is a cause, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's very true, because even now, and I'm not speaking out of place, but I've always felt this is cool, that some people just don't get what we're about. You know, and there's always been this little kind of a rocky thing, this underdog type of thing. We don't care what people think about metal. If you don't get it, well, you can fuck off, you know. So we feel very strongly about that, and you know, through the history of metal, we've had some very difficult times from various elements, certain groups of people, certain politicians, but we've always rallied together and supported each other and pushed back to those people that don't understand what we're about. Yeah, that defining thing that happens when we're all in the same room and we're playing metal, listening to metal, is very special, very unique.
Richie, why don't you, do you want to tell us a little bit about, you know, growing up in London around that time, before you were, you know, while you were sort of coming up through the scene, what it was like in London?
Well, growing up in London, it was very much, it was honestly, it's different to your experience growing up, because we had all your music to listen to and, you know, and to play, and we used to play around in bars and clubs, and all we wanted to do was be you guys, or, you know, Aussie. Well, no, I wanted to be Aussie, but, you know, you know, maybe Tony.
We do really. We all want to be Aussie. We all want to be Aussie.
You know.
We all want to be Aussie.
And, you know,
Wait, put the glasses on.
Your glasses. Glasses on.
it could be actually, yeah. You've got a mask on as well, have you? It's not good.
Yeah, right. I'm not walking out to get a pair of glasses. She ain't walking out to get a pair of glasses.
I got a pair of glasses.
Those ones, yeah, you got to do it now. You can't back down now, you got to do it. Yeah,
Those are Eltons, aren't they? Those are Eltons.
Okay, so we've established that there's at least one person that wants to be Aussie in the room.
Yeah, you probably does as well. But you know, as everyone can probably identify with, you know, everyone comes from the same place. You just want to be as good as you can be, and you aspire to be the best people. And the best people at the time were people like you, and you know, and everyone can relate to that. And I'm just humbled that I'm here doing the same thing as you. Really, you know, you just want to get up there, play great songs with great musicians, with great people, as part of that community. And that was one of the biggest things that I experienced. I wasn't ready for when we went out. You know, I went out as part of Judas Priest. The community. You know, there's people down the front there, they've got their hands in the air, they're singing back at you, you're singing with them, you're sweating on each other, and you know, you're part of one big family, you know. I've never experienced that before. You don't get that in the pubs around London, as you know, but, you know.
You've had a few drinks sometimes.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, and I think everyone can appreciate where I come from, because we're all doing the same thing. We all just want to play good music with good people, so here we are.
Great. So, you know what we're going to... Ozzy? We're going to ask a few
I would
questions.
just like to go on record to say I want to be Rob fucking Halford.
So we'll open up to a few questions.